Trojan Felly, what's up, man? USCJ here. It's the top of the morning. It's the top of the morning. I hope everybody is getting ready to get up, get out, and make some things happen this morning. Listen, we got to talk about USC football and some of the encouraging things that came out of the Big Ten, recapping the Big Ten meetings. Listen, there were so many things that I could take away from this, but we're going to talk about what the national media is saying. We're going to talk about some of the things that the guys that are keeping it real, what they're saying. And we're going to talk about some of the even the things that Miller Moss said. Miller Moss is, you know, let me say this about Miller Moss. Miller Moss is very poised, very humble, and you could tell highly intelligent, very smart guy, a guy that you know that is going to lead this team in the right direction when you talk about the quarterback position. Listen, these guys were sharp as a tack during the Big Ten media day. You guys know I told you guys yesterday when I did a commitment video that I wanted to come. I was out in the field, couldn't get back, but I'm recapping it now. And you guys see, I got my tie on, I got my shirt tie on because I wanted to be a part of the Big Ten media day. I wanted to do the same thing that some of these guys are doing. And here's the thing: Lincoln Riley had to address a lot of issues, a lot of just crazy uh, tactics that they were trying to come at him with as it relates to the media. And I'm gonna address some of this stuff real quick. And one of the things is, you guys know, the Paul Feinbaum thing is an ongoing thing that the USC football fans had to deal with. You guys know I had to deal with it. And when he addressed it, some of those things, he kind of threw out some things as far as Coach Saban, and he talked about it. We'll take a look at his remarks, but I think when you look at some of the things that Lincoln Riley had to say, I think he's absolutely right. And one of the things I put up in a tweet when you're talking about uh, Nick Saban, because he made a statement kind of alluding to the fact that Alabama kind of had an easier type of situation when you're talking about going to the playoffs. Yes, they played a lot of guys, a lot of teams in the beginning of the year, but when you look at Alabama as a whole, those games that were neutral sites, they weren't really neutral sites. They were in favor of Alabama. Of course, you guys know we played them. Yes, we got whooped. Not going to dispute that. But when we played Alabama, it was actually in Dallas. That was only what, maybe, I don't know, five, well, maybe six, seven. I don't know how far that was. Maybe 7 hours away from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where they're from. Um, of course, you guys know it was a lot further for USC, but most of the games were neutral site games for the most part. Um, well, neutral site games that were in favor of Alabama for the most part. Also, they will play those games at the beginning of the year. However, one of the things I put up on Twitter the other day, in reference to, in defense of Lincoln Riley, was that the SEC every year they consider to be one of the toughest schedules. And this year, 24/7 Sports actually has the SEC ranked at, well, South Carolina. I'm just going to give you an example. They have them ranked number fourth toughest schedule this year, right? And who do they play? They play Old Dominion. They play Wofford, and they play one more team. What is the other team? I had it down. I actually put it up on my Twitter, and they play Akron. And so when you look at those three easy games, USC, when you look at it this year, I'm just giving you guys an example. Their schedule should automatically be tougher than a team like South Carolina. uh, when you look at Utah State, they're in the Mountain West Conference, so it's not like we play in a Division One AA school. They play these Division One AA schools, and so I'm giving you an example because when you're defending Lincoln Riley, you guys know that it has to, this thing has to be put in proper perspective. He was saying an accurate statement about how, and it's not necessarily just wanting to pull out of the Notre Dame game. I think Notre Dame is our one of the best rival games of all time. Everybody knows that. Um, but when you look at it, I feel like, you guys know I said it on the show before. I feel like Notre Dame hands should be forced when you're talking about coming into the Big Ten Conference. That's just my stance on them. But on the flip side, how do I feel about Notre Dame when you're talking about uh, USC pulling out that game? I don't think we should pull out the game, but here's the deal. I feel like the hand should be forced, but I do think when you look at the scheduling aspect, and it's not a fair situation when you have other teams that are playing three real cupcakes, 3 cupcakes on the season, and USC is playing a very very difficult schedule. Of course, Notre Dame, and plus Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to be one of those games that is going to be extremely hard for us. I mean, it's I mean that's a rival. They're physical. It's like playing another Big Ten team. So you got these teams, and this is what Lincoln Riley was saying. I think a lot of people were saying he was taking shots at the SEC, but that wasn't the case. You got to put everything in its proper perspective. So that's where I stand on with that. And that's my thoughts on that. But I want to talk about some of the things that I heard coming out of the Big Ten, these Big Ten meetings, some phenomenal things. And there was a couple analysts, man, a couple analysts that actually get it. And one of them, I don't even know his name, but I'm gonna play you an audio sound from his name, from the Big Ten Media Day. He was in it. Well, it was a couple analysts talking. They were discussing a couple of things. But here's his audio right here, and he absolutely gets it, man. Most people don't get it. You guys know that I've been on here left and right talking about what USC is going to do, how they're going to perform, how they've enhanced the defensive staff. And I told you guys that everybody that addresses USC, they always address USC as uh, as a school that still has Alex Grinch, as a school that still has a defensive coordinator that's lost in the sauce, but that's not the case. It's a new era. It's a new time. It's a new era, and I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting that. I think some people have a hard time accepting that, but then on the flip side, I think some people want to continue a narrative because I told you guys this: that seeing is believing. If you see something, you're going to believe it. You're going to take that to heart, and you're going to run away with it. Not only the fans all across the country going to take that and run away with it, but other media sites. So when you see guys like Paul Feinbaum, when you see all these other media sites just absolutely come down left and right on USC, that same narrative is going to continue to flow all throughout the country. And so when you have a real one, real recognize real. I recognize real when it comes. When you have a real one that actually spreads the truth, you got to give him his credit what credit is due. I'm gonna play it twice. This is a guy from the Big Ten Network talking about USC and some of the things that USC is able was able to do in the offseason, and he addressed it. He acknowledged it, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Listen to what he said about Lincoln Riley, Miller Moss, and the coaching staff that was addressed this past year. Listen. But USC with Danton Lynn as their defensive coordinator, when Lincoln Riley is your coach, regardless of who's under center, that guy's Miller Moss will be a Heisman candidate. They'll put up 40 points a game. Danton Lynn will have that defense significantly improved this year. USC will be competing for a conference championship. Of course, but USC with Danton Lynn as their defensive coordinator, when Lincoln Riley is your coach, regardless of who's under center, that guy's Miller Moss will be a Heisman candidate. They'll put up 40 points a game. Danton Lynn will have that defense significantly improved this year. USC will be competing for a conference. All right. So why isn't that everybody else can't acknowledge the fact that this is what happened? But they want to put a false narrative out there. They want to put clickbait type stuff. And this is why I stress on all, content creators that are affiliated with USC, put out the positive, put out the real information, because at the end of the day, USC has really did some phenomenal things. And they really implemented a great staff. When you're talking about guys like Deanton Lynn, that was, of course, he was the led UCLA, the 98th defense in the country, and now it, finished out with the ranked number total defense. I think ranked 11th in total defense. You got to acknowledge that somebody like Deanton Lynn absolutely did that. Then you look at Eric Henderson. You look at what he is able to do. You guys know he had 2 Pro Bowlers, coached that defensive line. And then we all in the offseason, we could continue to see Eric Henderson getting praise after praise from guys like Aaron Donald on different podcasts. We continue to see that. And so you got to look at Doug Belt, who came from Alabama. And then, he was a defensive coordinator at Houston. You got to look at that. You got to look at the phenomenal things that coaches like Matt Ince did. Matt Ince did some wonderful things. National championship, head coaching experience. And so when you put those things together and you factor those things together, this defense is going to have a significant bump. When you're talking about being 116th or whatever we were, lost in the sauce, you guys know that the defense is going to take a major, massive jump. And this is what a lot of people, fail to acknowledge. And I think some actually know it, but they don't want to acknowledge it because they know if they start hearing this, the recruits hear these things. And so once they hear it, it's going to sway guys. When you hear, negative talk, I think it was Isaiah Gibson or one of those guys that actually I think he said he continued to hear one thing when he would go on other trips or whatever. I think he was hearing, just crazy stuff about USC. And so, the narrative is out there, but you got some people that really recognize that, and some people that are going to tell the truth. And so now Lincoln Riley, he's got to fight through this. He has to fight through that. And this is part of the narrative. But one thing I could say is the narrative can't be the only thing that could control the narrative is USC and what the product that we put on the field. And we're talking about what, 37 days, 38 days until these guys get out there. August 2nd, training camp begins. I talked to a young guy that I'm close to. He's coming from Sarah High School. He's going to be a preferred walk-on. His name is Travis. He's going to play center. He's a 6'3", 290-pound guy. We got a bunch of walk-ons that are coming that are some decent guys. We talked to you about a commitment yesterday, and it's straight up go time with that as well. So look, man, now is the time, and the time is now. Training camp is getting ready to begin, and it's straight up go time, man. So you guys can drop those comments. You guys can tell me what you think. Those are some news and note items that we had coming out of the Big Ten. And also, Lincoln Riley, he addressed some things about USC having to catch up. And this is some of the things we all know. We all know that facilities had to catch up. And it wasn't him whining or crying, but it's the truth. Facilities had to catch up, right? And they're working on that now. Other aspects, NIL stuff has to catch up. Everything has to catch up, but there are adjustments being made right now. And so now USC is absolutely, I believe, headed in the right direction. And when we put the right product on the field, I think it's going to be straight up go time, man. So you guys can hit me in the comment section. You guys can tell me what you think. And one more thing that I wanted to address is something that Lincoln Riley had to kind of put it out there as it relates to Coach Dan Lennon in Ohio State and Oregon coach Ryan Day. He talked about both of those coaches, and one of the things that he said in reference to those coaches was this. You look at the situation that both of them were put in, I can guarantee you this. He said, you look at the situation that both of them were put in, then, and you basically, I'll say it. He didn't have to say it. I'm going to say it. They would not be in the situation that they were in if they were in Lincoln Riley's situation. Lincoln Riley basically alluded to the fact that what he took over wasn't the same thing that Dan Lennon took over. It wasn't the same thing that Ryan Day took over. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, both of those guys inherited phenomenal athletes. Yes, Lincoln Riley brought Caleb Williams over, but that was pretty much, and we got Jordan Addison. But listen, man, when you talk about from a defensive perspective, we were lacking a lot. And Lincoln Riley had this. He's still trying to, battle that. And so is it going to take more time than what, people thought it was? Because the whole NIL transfer portal thing, all these different things are now factored into this. And so what you got to consider is, when you talk about the bidding war that's going on with multiple players, all this stuff matters, man. This stuff has changed. It's the new season. It's the new era. College football is different. And so you're talking about adapting to all these different things within this college football realm while you're trying to rebuild a team. So this is the aspects that we gotta worry about. This is the aspects that people have to recognize, but they fail to address it. They want to praise guys like Dan Lennon when you fell into a great situation. Why isn't Mario Cristobal having that same success at Miami right now? You know why? Because it's not the same talent over there, right? Talent makes a difference. Is that right? So look, man, you guys can hit me in the comment section. You guys can tell me what you think. I'm out of here, man. It's USCJ32 on Instagram. It's USCJ32 on Twitter. Listen, until later on, everybody stay blessed. Don't forget, fight on, fight on, fight on.